G'day, it's Alex at One Absolute Good. Today I'll be sharing with you Marie S. Watts' Gems. Number 1, Omniaction. Have you noticed that the word omniaction is rarely used in the spiritual vocabulary of authors and teachers of the truth? This is peculiar too, because this word, omniaction, is one of the most important words in the entire vocabulary of the student. God is omniaction. God is all activity. Without God, there would be no activity. Without activity, there would be no God. Without activity, there would be no life. Without life, there would be no activity. Without life, activity, there would be no existence. As you know, the word omni means all. Thus, omniaction means all action, all activity. Omniaction means God, the I am in action. But it is essential to know that God in action is the only activity. It is only a short step from this realization to the revelation that God is the only one acting. God is the only one in action. Anyone who has experienced illumination knows the intense, joyous consciousness of activity that accompanies this glorious experience. It is not the ordinary sense of being active or of doing something. Rather, it is the awareness of being the activity itself. This experience gives us a glimpse of the impersonal nature of all activity. Let us perceive the completely impersonal nature of omniaction. It is a well-known fact that there is nothing in existence that is inactive. The leading physicists of today will tell you that there is intense activity going on throughout that which they call matter. Even a piece of so-called dead driftwood, a table, a chair, or a speck of dust are known to be constantly, intensely active. Of course, we know that there is no such thing as dense, heavy matter, so there is no activity going on in or as matter. How could there be active matter when God is all existence and God is omniaction? God, omniaction, is infinite activity, and there is no vacuum in infinitude, the allness of this infinite omnipresent activity. Omniaction is omnipresent because omniaction is omnipresence. David, the psalmist, caught a glimpse of the impersonal nature of omniaction. In Psalms 114, we find him in glorious illumination, and he sings, "What ailed thee, O thou sea, that thou fleddest? Ye mountains, that ye skipped like rams, and ye little hills like lambs, tremble thou earth at the presence of the Lord." In illumination, we can readily understand the spiritual significance of David's illumination. David was not seeing mountains and hills that were composed of heavy, dense, inanimate matter. He was really seeing as God sees. He was spiritually perceiving God in action, or God as omniaction. Always remember this. David had to be aware that he was the very omnipresence that was omniaction. It takes the consciousness that is God to be aware of the truth that is God. How personal is the activity of the universe? Is there anything personal about the movement of the bodies of the stars and planets? Is there anything personal about the movement of the so-called Earth planet? How personal is the activity of a flower, a grain of sand, a piece of wood? How personal is the activity of the bird, the fish, the animal, or any other aspect of life? Above all, how personal is your activity and mine? A personal activity would have to be an activity that was separate from the whole or the all, God. If this could be true, God would not be all. There is no such thing as a divided God. You are not a channel through whom God works. You are not a puppet whose activity is controlled by a source or a power outside of or other than your God self. Actually, as enlightened consciousness, you are aware that there is no personal activity, because there is no person to be active or to have activity. There is God identified. There is Omniaction identified, but there is no separate person. Neither is there a separate personal activity. So now it is apparent that Omniaction is completely impersonal. We have seen that Omniaction is life itself. Life is mind. Mind is intelligence. Thus, Omniaction is intelligent activity, because Omniaction is intelligence in action. This means that there is no genuine personal activity at all. Furthermore, there is no person in action. Every difficulty we seem to have stems from a false personal sense of existence. It is the illusion's illusion, assuming an aspect of existence that is separate and apart from, or other than, the infinite all. For instance, if one encounters business difficulties, the very first reaction is to be a personal impulse to act, to do something, as a person. This is the delusion that there is a personal intelligence that has power and can act of itself. The all-acting intelligence knows nothing of an illusion, neither is it aware of the one who seems to be deluded. The seeming deluded one is the delusion itself appearing as a person. Conversely, the deluded one, or the illusion, can know nothing of the all-acting, all-being intelligence. Thus, intelligent omniaction cannot appear to be functioning as the experience of the deluded one. However, the very instant all false sense is obliterated, in that very instant omniaction will be realized and evidenced. This is not an inactive experience. Rather, it is the most intense and satisfying activity one can experience. But it is intelligence in action, and it is free of strain or struggle. Neither mistakes nor obstacles are encountered in this experience. You simply eliminate all false personal sense of being and go about your affairs, acting intelligent omniaction. A few years ago, a person wrote a book entitled, "Let God Do It." This is a good way to express it, but you must know that God, Omniaction, is doing it, and that God is doing it as your activity. Now, let us suppose that the difficulty seems to be physical. Of course, there is no physical difficulty because there is no physical body that can have or experience either perfection or imperfection. But the illusion may present itself as almost anything. If the inharmony appears to be functional, or to have something to do with bodily activity, it must have its basis in the fallacy that there is a person with a personal body and personal activity. Here again, the illusion would seem to conceal omnipotent, omnipresent omniaction, which is all that is going on all the while. It is vitally important to utterly obliterate a false sense of being a person with a personal body, a body that can act of itself or by its own volition. It is essential to remind yourself, of myself I can do nothing, know nothing, have nothing, be nothing, for of myself I am nothing. Then comes the glorious realization, I am just what God is as me, and nothing else. The only activity that is functioning as my activity is God, omnipotence, intelligence, and constant, uninterrupted, perfect action. It is in this realization that God, as omniaction, is known to be all that is active in your experience. That perfect activity as perfect activity is perceived and manifested. Intelligence in action is not engaged in doing something. Rather, it is actively being something, and that something is itself. Intelligence does not act in, through, or as a person. Intelligence acts as itself. Intelligence in action must act intelligently. It would not be intelligent for mind to act in a way that was harmful, inimical, or destructive to itself. Intelligence in action is self-maintaining, self-sustaining, and self-existence. Intelligence in action is evident as perfect activity because intelligence in action is intelligent activity. It is perfectly controlled activity because it is its own intelligent essence in uninterrupted action. Omniaction is always perfect activity because it is perfection itself in action. Omniaction is not something which God does, rather, it is God in the act of being. Intelligence in action is omnipotence in action. Therefore, omniaction is the only power that is active in or as the universe. Indeed, there is nothing in existence that has power to act but omnipotent, intelligent omniaction. There is nothing in existence that has power to act in any way that could oppose, obstruct, restrict, limit, or alter omnipotence in action. There is nothing existing that has power to delay, to frustrate, or to interrupt God in action. There is nothing that has power to accelerate or to retard omnipotent, changeless intelligence in action. Always remember this. Omnipotent omniaction is also omnipresent action. It is omnipresent activity because it is omnipresence itself in action. There is not so much as a split second in the eternal now, or a pinpoint in the infinite, which is here, that is not God-filled. This means that all that exists here and now, as you, as anyone or anything, is omnipotent omnipresence, being intelligently, perfectly active. There are many synonyms used in speaking or writing of God. There is no one synonym that can portray God. In fact, all the synonyms in existence cannot begin to express the entirety, the allness which is God. There are some to whom the word life means more than any other synonym for God. Others prefer the word love, principle, or some other synonym for God. It makes no difference what aspect of God we may be contemplating. It is imperative that God as omniaction be realized. In our realization of God as all life, it is easy to perceive that life is eternally, infinitely active. Thus we are aware that God, life, is omniaction. This realization of God as omniaction may not be so readily perceived when we contemplate that God is as love, as principle, as truth, or as some other aspect of its allness. Yet it is vitally important that God as omniaction be realized, just as every aspect of its entirety is perceived. For instance, let us consider God as love. We know, of course, that God is love, but are we fully aware that love is omnipotently active? Are we cognizant of the fact that love is omniaction? Believe me, dear one, when I say there is no spiritual realization more fraught with power than the awareness that love is omnipotent, omnipresent, omniaction. Almost any practitioner can tell you of the many so-called instantaneous healings when that glorious active surge of impersonal love floods consciousness. There are no words with which this experience can be described, but one thing is certain. There is always a tremendous surge of activity in this realization. It is impossible to really know love until one experiences being this glorious and personal love in action. Those of you who have had this revelation know that love is omniaction. Does this seem too absolute for you? Are you questioning the practicality of this revelation in everyday living? Are you questioning something like this? Will this realization of omniaction solve my business problems? Will it solve my social problems or help me with my work or in relationship with others? Will it enable me to see through my physical difficulties? Dear one, this revelation is not a problem solver. A solved problem can only lead to another unsolved problem. This realization reveals that there is no problem that needs to be solved. No matter what the situation may seem to be, no matter how serious, how troublesome, or how long it has appeared to harass you, the realization that you are omnipotent intelligence, love, life, God, constantly, joyously, freely active, will reveal the complete perfection which you are. You will realize this truth as an active fact in all your daily experiences, in your relationships, and in that which is called bodily activity. For instance, suppose there seems to be some functional difficulty concerning the body. The truth that God has revealed in these pages is sufficient to dispel that illusion completely and at once. The leading medical men are attributing almost all so-called bodily ills to faulty activity. They claim that this cell or that organ or any element of the body is either overactive or underactive. Now, how much intelligence would there be in that kind of activity? How much power? How much love? How much God? We know there is no body of matter, but we also know that omnipresent life, love, intelligence is the only activity in existence, right here and right now. And this knowing is intelligent omniaction being, all that constitutes the activity of the universe, the daily affairs, and the experience, and the body. Oh, this is an active truth. We don't have to do anything to make it active. We couldn't stop it or interfere with it if we tried. It simply is. Furthermore, we are this truth in full, complete, free action. Let us be actively aware of it. Let us look right through the illusory appearances of that which is called matter and really see God in action. This is self-revelation. This is your God identity revealed.